Hello there, good evening indeed, and many thanks for joining us on Rwanda Television News tonight. We hope you had yourselves a productive day. And now, this is what makes our top stories tonight. While the fighting continues to intensify between the armed forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo, FARDC, and the M23 rebel group, those who closely monitor the situation confirm that the heads of state in the region should intervene to get things back on track. The East African Legislative Assembly Committee on Legal Rules and Privileges has stressed that some of the East African Community member states have delayed the ratification of protocols which interrupts important projects to be coordinated. A very good evening to you and welcome to Rwanda Television News. My name is Sam Kalisa, and as we kick it off tonight, while the fighting continues to intensify between the armed forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo, FARDC, and the M23 rebel group, those who closely monitor the situation confirm that the heads of state in the region should intervene to get things back on track. We have the report. Since the beginning of the severe fighting between the armed forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo and the M23 rebel group, reports from the country indicate that different areas such as Kiwanja and Rutshuru have been captured by M23, adding to the Bunagana town that was captured in June this year. To date, the fighting continues. Those who observe the situation say that the defeat of the Congolese army in the war against M23 was the reason that prompted the Kinshasa government to expel Rwanda's ambassador, a decision made by the Superior Defense Council that was chaired by President Felix Tshisekedi on Saturday last week. On Monday, Ambassador Vincent Karega wrote on his Twitter handle that he bid farewell to the staff of the Embassy of Rwanda in Kinshasa as he was given only 48 hours to leave the country. This comes as on Monday afternoon at Village Rugiro, President Paul Kagame received Honorable Antonio Tete, the Minister of External Relations of Angola, who is in Rwanda, with a message from President João Lourenço of Angola, who is the mediator between Rwanda and DRC. He comes to Kigali straight from Kinshasa, where he arrived on Sunday as a special envoy of President Lourenço, who had sent a message to President Felix Tshisekedi. An expert in diplomacy, Ambassador Joseph Mutaboba, says that the heads of state in the region are the only key to finding a solution to this problem. Considering how things are right now, only the heads of state can give it a line, be it the Nairobi and Luanda processes or even other establishments. This comes as President Paul Kagame on Sunday had a telephone conversation with the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres. Discussions focused on the conflict in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. In a message posted on his Twitter handle, President Paul Kagame noted that discussing with the UN Secretary General about the matter, he reiterated that the solution to the situation in the eastern DRC is respecting the Nairobi and Luanda processes. The tweet reads, "Few hours ago, I had a discussion with the UN Secretary General on the conflict in eastern DRC, the ways and means to de-escalate and address the issues to a peaceful end are with us, building on the Nairobi, Luanda, and other international efforts. We just have to commit ourselves to applying them." In a recent interview with France 24 and the French International Radio, the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, urged both sides to find a solution to the problem through dialogue and regional countries to participate because they are also threatened by terrorist groups based in eastern DRC.
Ce qu'il faut, à mon avis, et c'est l'essentiel, c'est de trouver une discussion sérieuse.
The way I see it is that there needs to be discussions between DRC, Rwanda and Uganda so that there can be a common understanding in order to find a lasting solution to this problem. It is vital for those countries to have a common understanding and work together so that there can be security in the eastern DRC, but also for Rwanda and Uganda to be peaceful. Don't forget that there is ADF that originated from Uganda, or FDLR that is made of those who perpetrated the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, and that is a concern to those countries, which is why they need to collaborate.
Alors, il y a des préoccupations de tous les pays, il faut qu'ils s'entendent.
The Nairobi process, which aims to solve the problem of insecurity in the eastern part of DRC, stipulates that the Congolese government should hold talks with armed groups, including the M23, but so far, Kinshasa has not been involved in any negotiations with the group. According to Gasominadi Jean-Baptiste, who closely monitors what is happening in the DRC, it would be difficult to find a solution to this problem as long as the Congolese government continues to ignore what it agreed to and was requested by international organizations through the Nairobi and Luanda talks.
Imiryango yose mpuzamahanga waba umuryango w'abibumbye waba umuryango w'ubumwe bwa Afurika.
International organizations like UN, AU, EAC, ICGLR have all suggested that there needs to be discussions in order to analyze the cause of the conflicts and figure out a better solution. And in case one party decides not to comply with the agreement, there would be the deployment of the EAC standby force to fight whoever doesn't comply with the resolutions.
Hashingiwe ku biganiro bizaba byagezweho ndetse n'amasezerano azaba yashyizweho.
This is being said as on Monday, the African Union also requested that there be talks aimed at ending the war between the armed forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo and the M23 rebel group, which is said to be the reason for the escalating bad relations between Rwanda and the DRC. Moving on to other matters, the East African Legislative Assembly Committee on Legal Rules and Privileges has stressed that some of the East African Community member states have delayed the ratification of protocols, which interrupts important projects to be coordinated. Betty Motoni brings us this report.
The report of the community on the assessment of status, ratification and implementation of East African Community protocols and laws by pattern states shows that 20 protocols that were supposed to be ratified by 2021, 6 have not been ratified. Therefore, some of the East African Legislative Assembly members request those in charge to make sure that the remaining protocols are implemented.
You remember the issue which was alarming, the issue of maize between Tanzania and Kenya, and Uganda and Kenya, the issue of eggs, things like that. I think this protocol is aiming to solve those kind of issues. So therefore, I also urge the Council of Ministers to take up the matter and fast-track the implementation of the provisions of this protocol.
So I don't want to put a blame on this, but I would like to urge you and beg you that the responsibilities of implementation for this law is lying on your behalf. Because once we've passed it, then the other process is coming to you. I would like also to remind and urge our colleagues, especially those who will come in EALA 5, to use the position of asking question on Council of Ministers. We have not used this instrument for so long. This instrument will enable us to question and to put into responsibilities our Council of Ministers to give us details on why some protocols are not yet implemented and why some laws are not yet implemented.
The Council of Ministers in East African Community noted that in order to solve the issue of non-ratification of protocols, there should be close collaboration by all the East African countries.
What I see is that the Council may work closely with the Secretariat so that we may have a kind of timeline that each country may follow so that we may expedite this process of ratification in every country. So in our meetings, we will try to sit together and talk about the issue, look into it, and then have the right way to expedite this process of ratification and implementation.
The chairperson of the Committee on the Legal Rules and Privileges in East African Legislative Assembly, Kennedy Ayerson, noted that delay of ratification of some of the protocols is caused by bureaucracy on some of the countries, as he explains.
Because some protocol requires as well amendment of the laws of each partner state, which also takes time. But overall, from the number of protocols we have at the community, we now stand at only 6 protocols that have never been ratified by the partner states. The recommendation is that there is nothing the partner states should do, but rather ratify all of them as soon as possible. So this will be able to speed up the process of ratification and ratify them, because these are negotiated protocols that they were involved in negotiation, and of course they have to.
Out of the 22 East African Community protocols, 16 have been ratified, and Rwanda is at forefront in ratification of these protocols, while Tanzania is still behind in this program. Betty Mutoni, RTV News.
Genocide survivors and perpetrators in Gisagara district reflect on how instrumental the reconciliation seminars they've indulged in have been in unifying their path to development as the month of unity nears to its end with over 630 participants. Precious Chidezi.
The portrayal of liberation and bliss conveyed through the testimonies of those who participated in reconciliation seminars is undeniable. The seminars convened genocide survivors and perpetrators of the sectors of Nyanza, Kansi, Kijembe, and Muchindo, which participants say has brought them solace. The seminar has been insightful, and I found it in me to genuinely forgive by God's grace. The reconciliation seminars have significantly impacted this community, and the number of participants have even taken it upon themselves to mediate reconciliations among their peers. I'm going to be there for them consistently, and I will share when they have less, and they will do the same because we're all trying to better our lives. Districts across the country have followed lead with help from the Adeper Church, which a church official has shed light on.
Due to the tragic past of our country, we as a church have the responsibility to aid the reconciliation process, which we've done through the seminars to unite our people and fulfill our responsibility not only to the Lord, but our country as well.
Southern Province Governor Alice Kaitesi has urged the perpetrators to whom forgiveness was extended to show that they've changed.
N'urugendo rurerure bigishwa ariko hakabamo kubohoka no kubwizanya ukuri no gusaba imbabazi.
It's a lengthy journey that involves transparency and asking for forgiveness. We urge them to continue coexisting peacefully and maintain good relationships with those that forgave them, which ought to give reconciliation more value and put them on a harmonious path of healing.
Agaciro zigira ishingiro ariko banabafashe gukomeza muri urwo rugendo rutoroshye baba barimo rw'ibikomere basigiwe na Jenoside.
October has been designated a month of unity among Rwandans, and in addition to reconciliation seminars, lies communal discussions aimed at conflict resolution and healing. Precious Chirezi, RTV News.
Thank you, Precious. The Transparency International Rwanda is calling for strategies to penalize those people charged with corruption and embezzlement crimes, suggesting that such people should be cut off from some of the services within their rights. Manzi Prince has this report.
Some of the citizens emphasize on the consequences of corruption, especially in public works, hence requesting heavy penalties on people committing such crimes. For instance, this road we are using, they have been restarting its construction for like 5 times. We waited them to finish it, but we are still waiting. We are not sure, but the funds might have been embezzled. Consequences are there, because if the funds are government's and someone used them for personal use, That is a loss. Statistics demonstrate that in the past 3 years, 10.6 billion were recovered from the 16.3 billion rand francs pocketed, as well as $14,743 and 3,729 euros from 3.5 million US and 603 and 50 euros respectively. These are count in corruption and embezzlement. Rwanda's ombudsperson, Nirere Madeleine, reiterated that there is a marked step in recovering embezzled funds, but emphasized on how bad service is the root cause of corruption.
We have to teach the citizens their rights, but strength must be placed into teaching them the laws and how they should be given good service. When someone doesn't receive a good service, this is where corruption arises and also where we should emphasize in recovering funds.
The Rwanda prosecution stated that between July 2021 and June 2022, cases of embezzlement of government funds received were 2,321, with 3,275 people involved. The cases of corruption and bribery received were 296, approximately 98% were solved. The prosecution won these cases on an 80% rate. The Director General of the Civil Litigation Services, Specios Kabibi, states that even though there are people who sign ownership of embezzlement funds to others, laws are to be followed to recover the funds, as corruption is a crime without a statute of limitations.
Niba umuntu yibye nka miliyari agafungwa nubwo
If someone pockets like $1 billion and is caught in 20 years, if the funds are not recovered, he or she can continue the business he had along, because he can even give another person an assignment, and you find that he is earning while in prison. The law is to penalize the criminal, and he or she must not earn anything from the crime.
In 2021, the 2015 law on the recovering of the funds connected with corruption, injustice and embezzlement of government's funds was renewed. The chairperson of the Transparency International Rwanda, Marie Makire Ingabire, iterated that there should be strategies where someone charged with corruption and embezzlement should be cut off to some of the services mostly needed.
Actually, the government should have software like that of the Rwanda Revenue Authority, because you can't access any service without having a Rwanda Revenue Authority debt. The government must also buy this strategy to avoid the need of services like passports, IDs, buying and selling resources, bank accounts. That is where the government should block the charged.
The African Union's Advisory Board Against Corruption advises country members in placing strength in corruption prevention for the continent to achieve the said development goals by 2063. In 2007, Rwanda was on the 111th place with 2.8% scores in corruption prevention and the 52nd place with 53% in 2021. Prince Manzi, RTV News.
Thank you, Prince, for the report. And as we move ahead, as the world celebrates the International Day of Cities, some of the residents of Kigali City say that they are proud of how the city is looking now, and that they have the responsibility of preserving the cleanliness of the city and the fresh air from its green environment as it is its uniqueness. Kigali City is among the cities in Africa that are fast in the development. This year, the theme emphasizes the citizens to play a part in development and climate calamities-free Kigali.
Umuntu wari uri hano mbere y'imyaka 25 ashobora kugira ngo ni ikindi gihugu ageze.
Anyone who was here 25 years ago can think that this is a new country, because many things have changed, as we see in archives of how the city was, and also it's obvious. For instance, like here at the market, it was so bad. It can't be easy for someone who was here before to believe the transformation. We have to treasure the International Day of Cities with the hope of making our city one of the greatest cities in the world.
Nyine igaragara cyane kurusha izindi yadutanze imbere.
And we'll move ahead to other matters now. On Monday, Ejoheza concluded an International Savings Week with a campaign that was carried out across the country on the savings program. Gatera Auguste, the head of a long-term savings scheme, Ejoheza, points out that this campaign facilitates the public to increase awareness about savings program like Ejoheza.
There are people with different understandings. There are some who decide to save much according to his or her understandings. As you see, we are putting much efforts in mobilizing this program. What it requires is that you have to first understand its benefits and later start saving as well.
Augustin also urged the youth to participate in this program for long-term savings.
If you want to have a better life ahead, start saving by now, since for us, we focus on that long-term savings, hence that you will be having a better retirement.
Since the Ejoheza program was launched in December 2018, it has more than 2 million members across the country. And this marks the end of our tonight's edition. On behalf of the entire news production, as well as the technical team that made it happen, many thanks for being with us on this edition of Rwanda Television News. We wish you a fruitful week ahead. Goodbye.